Mom, I see you. Those four simple words, spoken by my son in the quiet of our grief-stricken home, didn't just shatter my world. They painstakingly began to rebuild it into something I never could have imagined. Welcome back, everyone. Prepare yourselves for a story that delves into the deepest, most complicated corners of the human heart. Before we dive in, please do us a huge favor by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel right now so you don't miss a single moment of what's to come. The silence in the house since David's passing had become a physical entity. It wasn't a peaceful quiet. It was a vast, predatory emptiness that consumed every sound, every memory, every sliver of warmth. It had been 6 months, but time had warped into a meaningless loop of sunrises I didn't want to see and nights that stretched into terrifying eternities. I'd find myself walking into a room and forgetting why I was there, my hand reaching for the phone to tell David about my day before the crushing weight of reality crashed down on me again. He was gone. The space he occupied in the world, in our home, in my bed, was now a cold, hollow ache that resonated in my very bones. Our son, Ethan, had become my anchor in this turbulent sea of grief. At 32, he was the perfect image of his father. The same broad shoulders, the same steady hands, the same kind eyes. But lately, those eyes held a sorrow so profound it seemed to have its own gravity, a private pain that he shielded from me, perhaps thinking I had enough of my own to bear. He called every day. He'd stop by with groceries I hadn't asked for, fix the dripping sink that had been a dull, rhythmic reminder of David's unfinished weekend projects, and sit with me in companionable silence when words felt too heavy. He was a good son, the best, and my love for him was a fierce, protective thing. That Saturday afternoon, the air was thick with unspoken things. I was numbly folding laundry on the sofa, a task that felt both mundane and monumental, when Ethan let himself in. The familiar sound of his key in the lock was one of the few comforts I had left. "Mom," he called out, his voice echoing slightly in the unnaturally still house. "In the living room, honey," I replied, my voice hoarse from disuse. He walked in, holding a small paper bag and wearing that sheepish half-smile that instantly transported me back to his childhood. The same smile he'd give me after tracking mud across the clean kitchen floor. "I brought you that herbal tea you like," he said, placing the bag on the coffee table. "That's so thoughtful of you, sweetheart." A wave of emotion threatened to overwhelm me. These small acts of his kindness were both a comfort and a painful spotlight on my loss, a reminder of all the little things David used to do. He didn't retreat to the kitchen as he usually would. Instead, he sat down on the couch, a careful distance between us. I took a moment to truly look at him, to see past the son I knew and observe the man he had become. There were new lines of exhaustion around his eyes, a tension in his jaw that hadn't been there before. He was carrying a burden, and my maternal instinct screamed that it was more than just grief for his father. "Are you okay, Ethan?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He hesitated, his gaze dropping to his hands, which were clasped tightly in his lap. "Yeah. No, not really. I've been doing a lot of thinking." "About your dad?" It was the safest, most logical assumption. He nodded slowly. "About him, about you?" "About everything that comes next." He finally looked up, and the vulnerability in his eyes struck me. "I keep replaying that night, after we left the hospital. You wouldn't come to bed. You just sat in Dad's armchair the entire night, just staring into space." A faint, sad smile touched my lips. "I couldn't," I admitted. "The bed was too cold without him." The chair, It still smelled like his aftershave. It was the only part of him I had left. The silence returned, but this time it was different. It wasn't empty. It was filled with the weight of his unspoken thoughts. The ordinary sounds from outside, a neighbor mowing their lawn, the distant siren, felt like they were from another universe, a world that hadn't been fractured. "I miss him more than words can say," he finally said, his voice thick with emotion. "Me too, baby," I breathed. It feels like a part of my soul was torn away. He shifted, turning his body to face me fully. The look in his eyes had changed. It was intense, searching, and filled with a terrifying question that seemed to be fighting its way to the surface. "What is it, Ethan? You're starting to worry me." He took a deep, shaky breath, running a hand through his dark hair. "Mom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to promise you won't freak out. Please, just listen to me, okay?" My body went rigid. My heart began to pound against my ribs like a trapped bird. "Okay," I said, my voice thin. "This is going to sound wrong. I know it will." He started, his words careful and measured. "Ever since Dad died, I've felt this gravitational pull towards you. And it's not just a son wanting to take care of his grieving mother. It's bigger than that, and it's scaring the hell out of me." The room tilted. The air rushed from my lungs. I stared at him, my mind a chaotic storm of confusion and disbelief. "Ethan, what are you saying?" His eyes pleaded with me, begging for understanding. I know how insane this sounds. I've told myself it's just the grief making me crazy, that I'm just lonely or confused. But it's been months, Mom, and this feeling isn't fading, it's getting stronger. I look at you, and I don't just see my mother anymore. I see a woman, a beautiful, strong, incredible woman who is hurting, and I feel this overwhelming need to be close to you, to protect you, to love you. I couldn't breathe. The words hung in the air between us, vibrating with a terrible, beautiful power. I stood up on trembling legs and walked to the window, my back to him, trying to anchor myself to the sight of the garden outside. The peonies David had planted for me were in full, defiant bloom, their vibrant pink petals a stark contrast to the gray numbness that had enveloped my life. "This is not a conversation we can have in one afternoon," I managed to say, my voice shaking. "I know," he said softly from behind me. "I love you, Ethan. You are my son. You will always be my son, but I need time. I need to understand what you're feeling and what I'm feeling." The admission that I was feeling something beyond confusion slipped out before I could stop it. He didn't press. He didn't move closer. "Okay, Mom? I can wait. I couldn't carry it alone anymore." I turned back to him, truly seeing the man standing there, a man forged by love and loss, his heart as tangled as my own. "Neither could I confessed in a whisper. He came to me then, not to hold me, but just to stand near, a silent promise that we were in this new, terrifying territory together. We stood there as the afternoon sun bled into a soft evening glow, casting long, dancing shadows across the living room floor. And in the profound stillness of our shared home, for the first time since David's death, the crushing loneliness receded, replaced by a feeling so complex and fragile I didn't dare give it a name. If this story is already pulling at your heartstrings, please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe. It means the world to us and helps us continue to bring you these intricate stories. That night was a torturous eternity. After Ethan left, I wrapped myself in one of David's old worn cardigans and curled up in his armchair, the one I had sought refuge in on the night he died. The faint, lingering scent of him, a mix of cedarwood and old books, clung to the fabric, a ghostly embrace, but tonight it brought no comfort. Ethan's words echoed in the cavern of my mind, chipping away at the carefully constructed walls I had built around my heart. I see a woman. Had anyone seen me as just a woman in the last 30 years? I had been a wife, a partner, a mother. My identity was inextricably linked to David, to Ethan. Without David, who was I? And what was this terrifying, yet strangely resonant feeling that Ethan's confession had awakened in me? I had dismissed my own moments of intense connection with him as a product of our shared grief, a desperate clinging to the only family I had left. But now I was forced to confront the truth. It was deeper than that. I didn't sleep a wink. I listened to the house settle, the groan of the pipes, the whisper of the wind against the glass, and beneath it all, the frantic, unsteady rhythm of my own heart. The next morning, I moved like a ghost through my own home. I poured coffee I couldn't drink, straightened picture frames I didn't see, and stared out at the world, which suddenly felt both sharper and more unreal. Around noon, my phone buzzed with a text. Ethan. Hey, Mom. Hope you're doing okay. Can I stop by later? My fingers hovered over the screen. Every instinct screamed at me to say no, to build distance, to protect us both from this impossible situation. But a stronger, deeper part of me, a part that had been dormant for years, typed back. Me, of course. When he arrived, the air was thick with a new kind of tension. The easy, familiar affection that had always defined our relationship was gone, replaced by a cautious, hyper-aware reverence. He held up a bag from the local garden center. I brought those tulip bulbs you said you wanted for the spring. Oh, I said, my voice breathy. I'd completely forgotten. We spent the next hour in the garden, a silent, mutual agreement to let our hands do the talking. Our mouths could not. We dug into the cool, damp earth, the rhythmic work a temporary balm for our frayed nerves. Our arms would brush, sending an electric jolt through me. Our eyes would meet over a patch of soil, holding for a fraction of a second too long. It was a delicate, dangerous dance. When we finally went inside, our faces flushed and our hands caked with dirt, I poured us both tall glasses of iced tea. He followed me into the kitchen, his presence filling the space in a way it never had before. I leaned against the counter, needing its solid support. About what you said yesterday, I began. He nodded, his expression earnest. I've been going crazy thinking I shouldn't have said it. That I just made everything worse. No, I said, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. I'm not angry, Ethan. I'm overwhelmed and confused, but I'm glad you told me. I needed to hear it. He took a tentative step closer, his voice dropping to an intimate murmur. It's like my whole life I saw you through one lens, Mom. And it was a beautiful lens. But then Dad was gone, and the lens shattered. And when the pieces settled, I saw you. Not just my mother, Sarah, a person who has endured so much, who is still so full of light and strength and kindness. My name. Hearing him say my first name sent a shiver down my spine. It was a deliberate shift, an acknowledgement that our dynamic had irrevocably changed. My breath hitched. Ethan, I'm not trying to replace him, he said quickly, as if reading my mind. I could never do that. I see you. And I think I'm falling in love with the woman I'm seeing. I had to turn away, pretending to rinse our glasses in the sink, anything to hide the storm of emotions on my face. A strange, unfamiliar heat bloomed in my chest. "I don't know what to do with that," I whispered to the stream of water. "There's no map for this, no rules." "I know," he said from right behind me. His voice was gentle, patient. "But maybe this is us figuring it out. You finding out who you are without him, and me finding out who I am too." I turned to face him, the afternoon light from the window catching the silver strands in his hair and the earnestness in his gaze. He looked so much like his father, yet he was so uniquely himself. On pure instinct, I reached out and gently brushed a stray leaf from his collar. His skin was warm. He didn't pull away. "We can't rush this," I said, my voice finding its strength. "We owe it to ourselves and to your father's memory to be honest and careful." "I want that," he said, his voice filled with relief. Honesty, more than anything. That evening, as the sky outside burned with shades of orange and purple, we sat on the back porch and we talked. He shared memories from his childhood that I had long forgotten. The way I used to hum off key while I baked, the time I sat with him all night when he had a fever, how he always felt that I was the force that held their family together. And I, in turn, opened up about the profound, suffocating loneliness, about the phantom limb syndrome of my grief, how I still woke up reaching for David. We didn't cross any lines, we didn't need to. But in the cool, jasmine-scented air, I felt the tight knot of grief in my chest begin to loosen, making space for something new, something terrifying and beautiful to take root, something neither of us had chosen, but that perhaps we both desperately needed. The weeks that followed were a masterclass in subtlety. We moved around each other like two celestial bodies caught in a new, uncertain orbit. The foundation of our relationship had been mother and son, but now that foundation was cracking to reveal something else underneath. We spent hours together, rebuilding a broken fence, sorting through David's old books, watching old movies. Underneath the mundane tasks and easy conversation, a powerful current of unspoken emotion flowed. I would catch him looking at me with an expression of such tender adoration it made my heart ache. It wasn't the look of a son for a mother. It was the look of a man for a woman. And instead of feeling wrong, it made me feel visible, alive. One rainy evening, I found a small, handwritten note he had left tucked inside the screen door. "Sarah," it began, and my breath caught. "I know the lines are blurry, and maybe they'll always be. But I meant what I said. I'm not running from this anymore. I'm not trying to be dad. I'm just trying to be here for you, in whatever way you need me. I see you. Yours always, Ethan." I held the note to my chest, the paper a warm talisman against my skin. That afternoon, I found myself in front of the full-length mirror in the hallway, an object I had avoided for months. I saw the lines of grief etched around my eyes. I saw the silver at my temples that David had always called my wisdom highlights. But for the first time, I also saw a flicker of the woman I used to be before life had weathered me. A woman with her own desires, her own heart, separate from her roles, and I saw the woman I was becoming. When Ethan came over that evening for dinner, I didn't retreat. When he took my hand as we cleared the table, his thumb stroking my knuckles, I didn't pull away. We sat on the couch, close enough for our shoulders to touch, the warmth from his body seeping into mine. "What do you think Dad would say?" I asked the question that had been haunting me. Ethan was quiet for a long time. "I think," he said, his voice thick, "he would be sad that he's not here. But I don't think he'd be angry. He loved you more than anything. All he ever wanted was for you to be happy and safe. If he knew I was the one making sure of that, I think he'd understand. Tears streamed down my face, not of sadness, but of a profound, complicated release. Ethan gently wiped them away with his thumb. "I'm not trying to fill his shoes," he whispered. "I just want to walk beside yours." In that moment, I knew. The fear, the guilt, the confusion, it all melted away, replaced by a quiet certainty. What was happening between us wasn't a betrayal of David's memory. It was an extension of the love that had defined our family. It was two broken people finding a way to heal, to piece each other back together. I leaned into him, resting my head on his shoulder, and he wrapped his arm around me. It felt solid. It felt right. It felt like coming home. The path ahead was unknown, and the world outside our quiet house would surely not understand. But in that moment, none of it mattered. I had found my way out of the suffocating darkness, not by finding a replacement for what I had lost, but by having the courage to embrace a new, unexpected, and beautiful light. This story is a powerful reminder that the heart doesn't always follow the rules we set for it, and that healing can be found in the most unexpected of places. If this story moved you, please press 1 in the comments below. And as always, thank you for listening. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories that make you think and feel.